And from that experience, though, was how Third Wave Water was born. So in creating a coffee subscription business, in that experience, the water conversation came up. I was traveling for that Kansas State job I was telling you about earlier for the whole unmanned aircraft systems research project. And I had all my coffee nerd stuff with me, and I was going to, Podunk Nowhere, Kansas, as an affiliate of this part of the university. And I would brew my coffee there, and it would just not taste as good. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. I have the right coffee. I've got all the same gear. I have all the right process, right? I've trained. I've studied under these other people, whatever. I know what it should taste like. And it just kept falling flat, and it was driving me crazy. So one of the roasters that we were working with was Taylor Miner with Telemetry Coffee at the time. And I pitched the idea to him. I was like, hey, he had just recently worked on a big coffee shop, an upgrade to his coffee shop, putting in a water system. So he went through the Water for Coffee book and, how do I build my own water system rather than hand somebody $10,000 for a water system? Like, there's got to be a better way to do this. And he came up with a good solution. So I felt like he was a good person to ask. And I just pitched him the idea and was like, what do you do for your, customers in your shop? And he's like, well, sometimes we might give them water to take home, especially in Ohio. We're like 450 plus TDS, like super, just calcium rich goodness that is going to flatten your coffee like crazy. And the question that really hit this off, and I'll stop here, is that I asked him, I was like, well, is there a way you could make a concentrate of your water, that we can just, ship with my boxes? Because I didn't want to ship and, you're not shipping jugs of water and then you just add it to a concentrate and, build it from there. Or you are making the concentrate, add it to an empty base and make your water from there. So that was the initial concept of Third Wave Water. So it came from our trial and error through the coffee subscription business, and then my traveling, kind of having this experience that I was running into that some of my customers may have had, because we're shipping them these amazing coffees and we were expecting them to say they were amazing, like I was tasting or we were tasting, and they weren't having the same experiences. And that was one of the reasons why.
I think we've all had very similar experiences where you go to your favorite, local spot and you get that, the Chemex or the pour over, and, you get home, same thing. You got the equipment, you got the beans from the exact coffee shop where you had that delicious cup of coffee, and it falls flat every single time. And I'm racking my brain. Is it the temperature? I'm getting thermometers. The temperature doesn't matter whether it's literally boiling as I pour it in or if I let it sit to the perfect temperature, it still falls short. And then, like Jimmy said, our good friend Steve, he is a coffee aficionado, and he was like, if you don't, you got to have this Third Wave. If you don't do it, you're never going to hit that mark with that cup of coffee at home. And so that's where we are, and here we are, and so it's actually a concentrated powder form of the water from that particular barista that you were working with. Or
so it actually, when we took a step back, he made the formula to try to fit closer to SCA specs, so the Specialty Coffee Association. They really defined a water profile, a long time ago. We'll just say 8 to 10 years ago, probably more though. And they have, they've worked with a lot of other coffee professionals, and they would tell you what they wanted the water to do, but they would never tell you how to make that water. So they would say, okay, have X amount of TDS, but that really doesn't tell you much. Have X amount of alkalinity. Okay, you're getting closer because certain things cause alkalinity. Have X amount of pH. Okay, there are certain things, depending on your base and how you mix it, will affect those levels. So basically starting with some of the results and then using a lot of the big hints from Water for Coffee, which was kind of a mind-numbing book, but it had some really good points. And one of the big ones was the importance of magnesium. So a big part of our formula was magnesium, in making sure that how the ratio was put together, it still was going to fit within this SCA spec profile that we knew the water standards from the industry wanted. So that was that's really kind of the short of it. There was some trial and error and figuring out like just some different manufacturing issues you run into when you're mixing powders and stuff like that. But we were confident once we got to the ability to measure within those specs for the SCA standard. And that's when we launched the company.